Have you ever really thought about what goes on inside an introvert's head when they start to fall for someone? It's this wild, sometimes hilarious, and often totally chaotic world where just one good conversation can feel like, well, a lifelong commitment. So let's get into it and unpack this paradox. Why do introverts seem to fall so hard, so fast, and then immediately hit the panic button?
I mean, this quote just nails it, doesn't it? It's funny because it's kind of true. It's not about being desperate. It's about having an internal world that's already doing all the heavy lifting of a relationship before the other person has even finished their first cup of coffee. Okay, to really understand this, we've got to start with our first big idea. For an introvert, feelings aren't something you just catch like a cold. Oh no. They are meticulously built, piece by piece, inside their own mind. It's like a full-blown internal construction project. Now, I know, this sounds like a bit of a joke, right? But there is a kernel of truth in here that so many introverts will immediately recognize. It's this idea that one single, meaningful connection can feel so profound that their brain just, well, it takes it and runs with it.
And here's the psychology behind why that happens. See, introverts process their emotions internally. They'll go home and literally replay every single moment of a conversation. They're analyzing your tone, your word choice, even the way you paused. So that attachment, that bond, it starts forming in their imagination way before it's ever shown on the outside.
So what is it that triggers this whole intense internal process? Well, a lot of the time, it's something that might seem really small to an outsider, but to an introvert, it feels like an absolute emotional earthquake. And this is just perfect. Think about it for a second. If you're someone who spends so much time living inside your own head, the feeling of being truly seen and heard without someone jumping in is unbelievably rare. And because it's so rare, it's incredibly powerful. That single moment of connection can feel, well, monumental.
And there's actual science to this. It sets off this super fast chain reaction in the brain. First, you feel understood. Your brain immediately registers that as safety. And that safety signal triggers a rush of all the feel-good chemicals, dopamine and oxytocin. And bam, an intense feeling of attachment is formed. It all happens in a flash.
This brings us to a really important concept, the introvert's social battery. You have to think of their social energy as this incredibly scarce, super valuable resource. And how they choose to spend it, well, that says everything you need to know.
So, if an introvert is choosing to spend their very limited energy on you, that is not a casual thing. It's a deliberate, meaningful investment. They are carving out a piece of their precious, quiet, internal time specifically for you. And trust me, that carries a ton of weight.
To put it into perspective, look at this breakdown of a typical day's social battery. A huge chunk, maybe 40%, goes just to work. Another 30% goes to basic survival, groceries, chores, just existing. A little bit for their hobbies, and that leaves this tiny sliver, maybe just 5%. If they're giving that to you, it might look small, but it is without a doubt the most valuable part of their day.
Okay, so the investment's been made, the feelings have been built, and now for the fun part, the panic. This is the absolute core of the whole experience. This huge, often kind of funny gap between what's happening on the inside versus what you're actually seeing on the outside.
This pretty much sums it up perfectly. The entire epic process of falling in love can happen completely silently. An absolute storm is raging inside, while on the surface, they're just calmly asking you if you want more coffee.
And this right here captures that contrast brilliantly. Outwardly, you get a calm, neutral, maybe even bored-looking face. But inwardly? Inwardly, it is a full-blown emotional opera, complete with drama, heartbreak, joy, and maybe even some premature wedding planning. The difference is just staggering.
So what is actually going on in that chaotic internal world? Well, it's a non-stop cycle of overthinking every single text message. It's replaying conversations at 2 in the morning, hunting for hidden meanings. It is vividly imagining the most painful, worst-case rejection scenarios while at the same time planning a hypothetical future together. It is exhausting.
But with such a massive internal investment, it means the stakes for actually being vulnerable become incredibly high. And that means when things go wrong, the fallout, it can feel absolutely devastating.
And this is the key, because opening up is such a rare and carefully calculated risk. Any hurt that comes from it isn't just standard damage, it's premium damage. It just cuts so much deeper because so much internal work, so much thought went into that single act of being vulnerable.
There's actually a term for this: emotional exclusivity. Because introverts tend to focus their energy on fewer but deeper bonds, that attachment is incredibly concentrated. So, when that bond breaks, it is not a casual loss. Detaching is profoundly difficult because for them, the connection was never casual to begin with.
So after hearing all of this, if you recognize yourself in this pattern, if you're sitting there nodding along, the most important thing to take away from this is that it does not mean you are weak.
It simply means your love shows up differently. It's a deep, powerful internal force, not a loud, flashy outward performance.
So I want you to try and reframe this in your mind. That depth you feel, that tendency to build something real and solid internally, that is one of your greatest strengths. It is not a flaw that you need to fix.
Your process might be more careful, more analytical, and maybe more intense than other people's. But that does not make it the wrong way to love. It's just your way.
And please, remember this beautiful thought. The right person won't see your intensity as too much. They'll see it as this safe, wonderful place where they can finally, truly feel at home.
So, to all the introverts out there, I gotta ask, and be honest, was it really just one deep conversation that did it for you? Or did it maybe take a whole two? That's all for now. Thanks for joining me.